And in most cases, electors must cast a vote for the winner of their state's popular vote, or they face
Correct.
a fine. That fine can be between $500 or $1,000. What's your take on filmmaker Michael Moore's plans? He says, look, I'll pay the fine for any elector who does not vote with the popular majority in their state. He tweeted, Republican electors, if you vote your conscience at noon and your state fines you, I'll pay your fine.
Yeah, he can keep his money. I'm not interested in any of that, nor are the other electors besides this Texas elector who's talked about changing his vote. I'm very confident that every other Republican elector is going to vote the conscience of their electorate in their states and cast that vote for Donald Trump and Mike Pence.
Hey, Michael, have you referred any of these death threats to the authorities, and if so, what have they said and made of it?
Yeah, so I have filed a police report on some of the death threats, and they're currently being investigated. They've been able to track some of those people down and have a stern talking to them, but other than that, you know, it's an open investigation, so I'm not wanting to say too much more than that. But yes, they have been reported to police, and they've been doing a great job. Not just my local police department, but the Michigan Attorney General's office has also reached out to me and offered any support that I need.
You know, it's incredible to me that they think that your vote is so fungible. You know, why did you vote for Donald Trump?
Well, I think he was just the better choice between the two. I was a Marco Rubio supporter during the primary, but
right.
When Donald Trump won the primary outright and we nominated him at our convention, it was a pretty easy choice for me. Were we going to continue with the failed policies of the last 8 years, or were we going to try something different when we've had record low labor participation, slowest recovery in years? So I think the choice was pretty clear, and I think for a lot of Republicans it was obvious. And I think it's funny, these Democrats are so self-absorbed they can't seem to see outside of their own little bubble and understand that this hope and change that Obama promised never came for millions of Americans.
Right, and to think that they think you're just going to change your vote because they think that you voted wrongly.
Right, right, yeah, and I think another thing to point out, which you had mentioned earlier, is that in the state of Michigan we have faithless elector laws that prevent us from changing our votes. If I even attempted to, which I don't want to, but if I even attempted to, my vote would just be cast out and I'd be replaced by another elector. So it's a pointless endeavor for them to be pursuing this, especially in Michigan, but in other states too.
Hey, Michael, Kirsten here. I'm also from Michigan, actually. I was born and raised in the Metro Detroit area, so I have followed what has been happening there very closely. And, you know, I would love to hear your insight, too, because we hear about these death threats and these few, you know, but loud people who oppose this. But, you know, what's really happening on the ground with people? Are they moving on, especially in a, you know, it was a very swing state. Are they moving on and accepting the results and optimistic about the future?
Yeah, well, like I said before, a lot of the letters and messages I'm receiving aren't even from Michigan. Michigan is a very pro-Trump state this election cycle. If you're from Michigan, you know Macomb County, for example, is an area that's largely populated by a lot of union members, hard labor, and that's a county that went for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. Well, in this election, it landslide victory for Donald Trump. I mean, we have so much support for this man, not just in Michigan, but throughout the entire Midwest. And I think on the ground in Michigan and these states, we're seeing a lot of support and a lot of unity around our next president. And like I said, to reiterate, these letters and a lot of the messages I'm receiving aren't even coming from Michiganders.
Yeah, and big manufacturing state. So you think the working man and woman are basically saying, no, we are for Trump?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's not pretend that the Democrats haven't made promises to these people for the last 30 years and not followed through on them. They waited for these policies to affect them, and it never came. And so the Democrats are somehow shocked that these people didn't get behind Hillary Clinton, who is the epitome of these big government failed policies over the last 30 years. It's crazy.
Michael, thanks very much for sharing your story. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
We'll see you soon. Michael Banerian there. Coming up